welcome back to Stars and Bars, where we analyze and interpret your favorite musical artists' astrological charts and how astrology plays out in their music, lyrics, and career. If you're new here and that sounds interesting to you, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button so you never miss a video, and tell me in the comments who you want to learn about next. Today we are talking about an artist that I really feel wears her heart on her sleeve. She's known for being straightforward about her love life, emotions, and sensuality. Especially lately, she has acquired a reputation of somewhat of a spiritual guru, sharing her love for meditation, Tibetan singing bowls, and natural living. She has been nominated for an AMA, 3 Grammys, and more, and has won a BET Award. And today, of course, we are talking about Jhené Aiko. Here is Jhené Aiko's chart. She is a Pisces sun and moon with a Sagittarius rising. She has Mercury in Pisces, Venus in Taurus, and Mars in Capricorn. Despite all of her Pisces placements, she is Earth dominant, and her dominant planets are Jupiter, the planet of expansion, philosophy, and good fortune, and the Sun, the planet of expression, power, and the self. Perhaps the most important trait in Jhené Aiko's career and personality is her spirituality. She frequently discusses meditation, philosophy, and even astrology in and out of her music. Many of her placements speak to this fundamental trait, including her Pisces sun, moon, and Mercury, and her Sagittarius rising. To be a little more specific, in interviews, Jhené has credited her sensitive, intuitive, receptive Pisces placements as a big part of her sensuality and her feminine power. And her most recent album, Chilombo, featured Tibetan singing bowls on every song. Tibetan singing bowls play specific tones that are said to have different meditative effects on the listener. Spirituality is a huge part of Jhené Aiko's life and personality, but is also a huge part of her music and lyrics, so that will be our first trait for today. Moving on to another trait, upon seeing Jhené Aiko's Venus in Taurus and Capricorn Mars, both in earth signs, someone might expect her to be a safe and stable lover. But that Venus in Taurus actually makes some interesting aspects with other parts of her chart that change that expression a little bit. The first aspect that alters her Venus in Taurus's expression is its opposition to Pluto and Scorpio. So these two planets, her Venus and Pluto, are on opposite sides of the zodiac wheel, meaning that they are not in agreement with each other. They have different wants and needs, and this can be a challenging placement, especially when the opposition is made with Pluto, which is a malefic planet. Malefic planets bring destruction or difficulty to the area that they affect in the native's life, and can therefore pull the native in 2 different directions, in this case with regard to romance. This causes Jhené to have a tendency to be very intense and reactive in relationships at best, and possibly even jealous or manipulative at worst. Another Venus aspect relevant here is her Venus trine Mars aspect. The trine, unlike the opposition, is not a challenging aspect, it is a harmonious one. So our romantic Venus and our passionate high energy Mars get along with each other when we have this trine aspect, and that causes Jhené to be a very intense lover, and that is our second trait for the day. Our final trait in the bars for today is escapism. This is a theme throughout Jhené Aiko's discography that is communicated often and in various ways. And while escapism is a theme that is very apparent and recurring in her music, it is also one that is recurring in her natal chart. Escapism is a huge theme with the Pisces archetype. Pisces are often said to live in a dream world or only see what they want to see, or even use imagination or mind-altering substances to escape their reality. Sagittarius is another important archetype in Jhené Aiko's chart and is symbolically linked to mental and physical adventure, so it's not a long stretch to say that escapism is also a Sagittarian trait. So those are our traits in the bars for today. We have her spirituality bestowed upon her by her Pisces and Sagittarius placements. We have her intensity in love, which is bestowed upon her by her Venus opposite Pluto and her Venus trine Mars. And we have escapism, which is relevant anytime we're really looking at heavy Pisces and or Sagittarius placements. But before we start breaking down Jhené Aiko's lyrics, let's dig a little bit more into her career through our astrological lens. Since we've already been recently discussing the role of spirituality in Jhené's career, we can go ahead and start at the midheaven, which is the career angle of the chart. Jhené's midheaven is in Virgo, and Virgo is the sign most commonly associated with health and wellness, making Virgo, in my opinion, one of the signs most relevant to spirituality. And if anyone's curious, I would probably say the most spiritual archetypes in the zodiac are the water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, along with Virgo and Sagittarius. Obviously, the entire zodiac is very capable of harnessing spiritual depth, but these signs are the ones that I just feel it comes most naturally to. Anyways, Jhené definitely appears to take a holistic, wellness-focused approach to her spirituality. As we mentioned earlier, she sings the praises of meditation and mindfulness, both of which are practices that have gained popularity for the evidence that they help with mental and even physical well-being. They are also known as grounding techniques because they help the person practicing come into peace, emotional stability, and a sense of divine connection. So it's no question why somebody with an earth midheaven, especially a wellness-focused one like Virgo, would be a proponent of grounding and stabilizing techniques. And especially that their role in society would take the shape of a wellness advisor or influencer. Another trait Jhené displays is open-mindedness. She talks frequently about sexual empowerment, the divine feminine, honest parenting, experimentation with substances, and other taboo topics in and out of her music, and approaches all these topics with an open and objective mind. This trait is shown by her Sagittarius rising, but more specifically, also by her Mercury sextile Jupiter aspect. The sextile is a harmonious aspect like the trine, and thus her mental, rational self, shown by her Mercury, and her expansive, philosophical, truth-seeking self, shown by Jupiter, agree with one another and create an open-minded disposition. I just have one more career and personality trait to point out before we move on. Let's take a look at Jhené's third house of communication. If you've spent some time watching my videos in the past, you've probably noticed that we come back to the third house a lot, and that's because we are dealing with music and lyrics, and the third house is the house of communication. So it rules things like lyrics, writing, speaking, and things like that, and that makes it very important for our purposes here on Stars and Bars. Anyways, Jhené has Moon and Mercury in sensitive, emotional Pisces in her third house. As you can likely guess, this causes her to be masterful in communicating her deepest emotions. She has always been extremely genuine when discussing her self-esteem, mental health, and love life, particularly in her music. A lot of the lyrics you're going to hear in this video inevitably show this sensitivity and the willingness to express it freely. The first trait we'll be breaking down bars for today is Jhené Aiko's spirituality bestowed upon her by her Pisces and Sagittarius placements. The first project we'll be discussing is 2013's Sail Out EP. This album is thematically mostly about love and the twists and turns thereof, shining light on Jhené's romance-focused Taurus Venus. It also speaks on Piscean escapism, as well as ruminating on her own naivety, another Pisces trait. On Stay Ready, What a Life, Jhené connects her spirituality to her romanticism, saying, "We do not exist in any other instant. Here in this dimension, you and I are meant to be." Even more spiritually charged, 3:16 a.m. gives many examples of spiritual ways Jhené maintains her mental health. She says, "Outer space, that's where I've been going, to a place where nobody knows, floating at a pace where now you see me and now you don't." Which to me sounds like a reference to the metaphysical concept of astral projection, wherein a person essentially initiates an intentional out-of-body experience to separate the consciousness from the physical body. Later on the hook, she said, "I do not feel the fear of falling, I want to fly. If it all goes well, then I will, but what if I don't?" Which seems to possibly refer to the Christian theory of what happens after we die, or perhaps just the risk of falling in love, and she has said that that line is open for interpretation. Jhené's debut album, Sold Out from 2014, is largely about lost love, both romantic and familial, as well as spirituality and positivity. I feel a lot of Jhené's Sagittarius rising and once again her Taurus Venus on this album. It also discusses Jhené's brother Miyagi, who passed away in 2012. All these deep themes make for a beautiful and very candid album lyrically. Sonically, the album is dreamy and passionate, reflecting lots of Pisces and Taurus influence. The first track from Sold Out, Limbo, 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 discusses the different dimensions of her life and individuality and how they fight each other for dominance over her personality. I found this really interesting because Jhené has a grand cross in her chart. A grand cross is formed by 4 planets that are all about 90 degrees away from each other. The 90-degree aspect is called a square, so some people describe the grand cross as 4 planets separated from each other by squares. The square is similar to the opposition that we discussed earlier, in that it is not a harmonious aspect, it is a challenging one, and having 4 planets connected to each other by squares is a lot of squares, and also can cause the native to feel as though multiple different parts of their personality are pulling them in different directions. All that to say, the theme of this song is exactly the same as the classic interpretation of a relatively uncommon placement Jhené has, that Grand Cross. And that's the type of stuff my astrologer self just loves to see. I found that super interesting and just very, very relevant to what I had seen in her chart. Now, moving on to the lyrics, there are a few lines that best show what we just discussed, such as the opener. She was born in limbo with the need to be as simple as her makers and the made-up things she dreamed, which shows her spirituality has always come naturally to her, despite it not always being the route that was easy or agreed upon by her family and peers. The second verse also touches heavily on spirituality, saying, sailing through the cosmic sea, her celestial frequency was needed to fulfill the prophecy. She was too real to believe in, though if they would, she could free them from the truth that they've been told a lie their whole life. It sounds like Jhené feels her spirituality is the key to peace, and she hopes others will open their minds as well. The next track, WAYS, which stands for Why Aren't You Smiling?, also touches on spirituality. The bridge says, if there's one thing that I've learned, it's that everything takes time. You have got to lose your pride, you have got to lose your mind, just to find your peace of mind. You have got to trust the signs, everything will turn out fine. Losing your pride or ego is a popular tenet of Eastern spirituality, a brand of spirituality which Jhené often identifies with or pulls from for her content. Jhené's second studio album is 2017's Trip. The first half is mostly about leaving a marriage and entering a new relationship, hence the name. The album also touches heavily on altered states of consciousness, including drug-induced ones, as well as obsessive love, depression, and oblivion. Being that altered consciousness and mental adventure are predominantly ruled by Pisces and Sagittarius, I would say these are the main energies represented on this album. The second track on Trip, Jukai, touches on Jhené's views on hell. Hell is not a place, hell is not a certain evil, hell is other people or the lack thereof and their lack of love. The song deals with suicide, hence the title, which references the Aokigahara forest, one of the most popular places in the world to commit suicide. This theme gives way to deep reflection. OLLA, Only Lovers Left Alive, is mostly a romantic song, but the post-chorus touches on spirituality, saying if they don't believe us, they'll keep us from freedom and being beings of light, beacons of light. To me, this means that the Eastern Buddhism-inspired spirituality Jhené practices is not necessarily popular or widely accepted in the Western culture in which she lives, putting her at risk of losing her freedom for expressing it. A light being or a beacon of light is a New Age title given to people with freely flowing positive energy. Another song that focuses on Jhené's spirituality is Mystic Journey, Freestyle. The chorus discusses the spiritual theory that all things are connected to one another, saying, closer to my destiny, closer to the connection, don't you feel your connection to me? It then connects this theory to her love, stating that the two are better together than apart. And finally, Jhené Aiko's third and most recent studio album is 2020's Chilombo. The album explores independence and clarity following the end of a long-term relationship, which speaks to Jhené's Sagittarius rising more than anything else. The first half of the album has a darker and moodier sound, while the second half is brighter and happier sounding, which is representative of Piscean duality. The 10th track from Chilombo, Surrender, is about letting go of one's earthly worries and allowing the universe to take control. Jhené's lyrics on this song are hip-hop inspired braggadocio, but the outro features Dr. Chill, who is actually Jhené's father, with a spiritually charged call to action. He says, "Surrender to quantum consciousness. What gave us all that we be, can't you see? And it is all for free. Your soul, your mind, your heart, your body, your potentiality, your actuality, your spirituality, your reality. We get it all for free. So why can't we give it all back easily?" Later on the album, Love also discusses spirituality, and especially what that looks like for Jhené. The song has many lyrics referencing spirituality, but things get specific and tangible in the 4th verse, where she says, "When I put my faith in God, nothing bothers me at all. I am more than my emotions. I know I am in control when I am living in the moment, dedicated and devoted, praying often, staying open." Up until this point, many of Jhené's lyrical references to spirituality seem to be more geared toward Eastern spirituality, but this lyric seems to reference a God closer to the Christian God. These mixed references to different spiritual belief systems seem to show that Jhené, like many of us, has her own brand of spirituality that doesn't align 100% with any one religion. Jhené's spiritual practices are even more specifically laid out on Lightning and Thunder, which she opens with, "Been up since 6 doing rituals, burning incense just to wish you well, throw all my sense into wishing wells." And that concludes our section on Jhené Aiko's spirituality. So the next piece on our list is her romantic intensity, bestowed upon her astrologically by her Venus opposite Pluto and Venus trine Mars aspects. As a Pisces with Venus in Taurus, Jhené puts romance high on her lists of priorities and artistic inspirations. Also, before we get really digging, of course, romance in general is a very common inspiration for musical artists or artists in general. And the biggest criticism that I hear about astrology from people is that a lot of these traits can be applied to just about anybody or too many people. And while I do think personally that astrology is more specific than that, I am going to try to only use examples in this section that are specifically about intense love and not just about love in general. We're going to really try to keep it nice and specific, but just keep in mind that love itself is referenced much more than what you see here. Starting with The Vapors, the first track from Sail Out, Jhené expresses missing a lover who made her feel the way nobody else had. She says, "No feeling can compare to you." Then in the next verse, "You got me up so high, up and away we go. Racing to the sky, I'm feeling unfadable." Those lyrics are pretty self-explanatory. Love is making Jhené feel like nothing else has made her feel before, and that sounds like a very intense emotion. In the last section, we discussed how on Stay Ready, What a Life, Jhené describes romance as a spiritual experience, which also applies here. More lyrics that touch on romantic intensity in this song include, "I have waited lifetimes to find you. Now that you're here, I can remind you of the things you've been dreaming. All I need is 24 hours. I promise you'll want plenty more. You've probably been waiting forever." She describes her love and makes it sound very impactful, even life-changing. Later in the song, she also describes love as a loss of control. The theme of romantic intensity is spread on real thick on Sold Out's 3rd track, To Love and Die, starting with the title. The lyrics start off with, "Suited and booted, I've been hit by Cupid, I'm being recruited, I'm ready for war, 'cause baby, I'm yours." Then in the second verse, "I'm just a prisoner of your army of one, but I'll fight to the death or until your heart has won." All these war and military analogies allude to a very intense love. On Brave, Jhené calls her lover so brave, stone cold crazy for loving her, and says her love is so intense that she hopes he makes it out alive. Other lyrics on this topic include, "You're my favorite mistake, more than happy to make you. If you decide to stay, know there is no escape." And I'm no walk in the park, all these scars on my heart, it's so dark here. Jhené has been through a lot and has those strong Venus aspects we've been talking about, which have caused her to be sensitive and not always that easy to love. The final track on the deluxe version of Sold Out, Blue Dream, also shows Jhené's romantic intensity. The opening lyrics say, "We were coasting on the coast when you opened my eyes, made me notice where the ocean is holding the sky, I was blinded." Then later, "I know the meaning for all the seasons, you are the reason, my love." Whether this song addresses her romantic love, her daughter, or some combination thereof, that love has helped Jhené to better see the beauty in the world, and that, again, is a very emotional and intense experience. Moving once again on to Trip, we mentioned OLLA in the first section, but rather than the pre-chorus, now I actually want to touch on the third verse, which includes Jhené's partner at the time, Big Sean. In this verse, he says, "We in over our head like we getting baptized, then so crazy, my lady, I look at you and I want to have 100 babies." Both of these lines express the intensity of the couple's love for each other. Another good example is on New Balance, where Jhené says, "It hit me like a tidal wave, knew that I was in love with you right away, turned all my days into brighter days, even when people say what we do is not okay." Then in the next verse, she says, "You are just what I prayed for. You are what I was made for. Yes, I'm for sure. Most of all, I just want to mean the most to you." Jhené's love for her partner started off strong and fast, and she has no doubt that they were meant for each other. You Are Here is another song that is very blunt in its expression of Jhené's obsessive love. Over the course of the song, Jhené explains that while her feelings for her new partner are very strong, she is worried that he is not who he says he is. The outro says, "Tell me that it's something special. Tell me you never felt it. Tell me I'm your new obsession. Tell me that you really are the one." She needs reassurance that her intense love is being reciprocated. And we have returned once again to Chilombo at the front of Jhené Aiko's discography. The intro track, Lotus, is very brief and blunt in opening up the album and explaining what Jhené went through to inspire it. It says her heart was golden, deep as the ocean, and then this one man, he came and broke it, till it was open just like a lotus. Oh yes, there were explosions. With strong, intense love and emotion often comes a disastrous separation. And speaking of disastrous breakups, the next track and lead single from the album is the Triggered Freestyle, which, by the way, this song is a freestyle. The lyrical content and sound and emotion in this song, it's really incredible, honestly. I love this song so much. I relate to it quite a bit, and I'm just so impressed by many of her freestyles, but especially by this one. Anyway, this song discusses Jhené's whirlwind of feelings and trauma surrounding their relationship, of which the end inspired much of Chilombo. Lyrics on this song that show her romantic intensity include, "I'm about to burn this bitch down, think I need to lie down, 'cause I'm not trying to wild out now, but right now, don't know what I'm capable of, might fuck around and go crazy on cuz, might fuck around, have to pay me in blood. Then later, I'll calm down eventually, please call me back eventually. You know it's hard for me to control that shit, 'cause when I get mad, I get big mad." This back and forth love is characteristic of very intense romance. We discussed lightning and thunder in the spirituality section, but the real theme of the song is having conflicting feelings surrounding a breakup. The chorus says, "What kind of spell do you have me under?" implying that she is not 100% over her ex-lover. In the third verse, Jhené says, "I've been a sick individual ever since you made it official. You went and did the unthinkable. I am still here and available." Despite what he has done to her, Jhené still has feelings so intense that she is not yet ready to give up. And now we are on to our third and final trait, escapism. This is a trait that is notoriously common in both Neptune and Jupiter dominant individuals, both of which are Jhené's dominant planets. We discussed Sail Out's opening track, The Vapors, in the last section, but what we're talking about this time is its secondary theme to romance and intimacy, which is cannabis and its ability to distract one from reality. In the second verse, she says, "The vapors could save us and take us and make us believe that we are free." The next track, Bed Piece, featuring Childish Gambino, who, by the way, we also have a video on, and it is right here on one of these sides at the top. Anyways, Bed Piece also deals with escapism, in this case from responsibilities. Jhené says, if I had it my way, I'd roll out of bed, say about 2:30 midday, hit the blunt, then hit you up to come over to my place in the first verse. Then in the second, wake up, bake up, gotta heat the vape up, let's get faded, gotta call your job, tell him you won't make it, ain't nobody here, baby, let's get wasted. Jhené would rather relax with her man than work and fulfill earthly duties. Relatable, understandable. WTH is another song that implies escapism with regard to altered states of consciousness. It largely references Alice in Wonderland, a story often used to reflect messages of delusion and psychedelic states of mind. Escapism is huge on this album. There are only 7 tracks, and we are already on the 4th one that discusses escapism. And we already discussed 3:16 a.m., where Jhené tells us she's been going to outer space lately, which, along with spirituality, is also an escapism reference. And moving on for the last time to Sold Out, It's Cool is a lighthearted love song that starts off with Jhené calling her lover my escape from everything. Please say you'll be my nothing. She's looking for someone to distract her from life and its struggles. This point is revisited in the second verse, where she says, I wouldn't mind if we just lie together till the end of time. And that's really the only song on Sold Out that discusses escapism at length. But the next album is Trip, and based on what we've already discussed on that album and its themes, I'm sure you can guess that escapism is huge on that album. Starting with the opening track, LSD. This is a brief song which sets the scene of Jhené trying to cope with her brother's passing on this album. She says, we did some shrooms and we smoked marijuana, came all this way just to escape our problems, very bluntly acknowledging her escapism. While We're Young also briefly touches on escapism with the line, while we're young, I think we should just do something crazy and run away from the daily routine. Similarly to Bed Piece, Jhené, in this case, wants to escape responsibilities with her lover. And we revisit drug-related escapism in Nobody, in which Jhené says, pop 1, pop 2, pop 3, 4 pills. These things tell me how life should feel. It's my free will. Please don't tell me to chill. Then in the final verse, grab my purse with my prescriptions in it, tiny bursts of optimism in them. Take this back to 88 when everything was great, then life had just begun. She then goes through other years in her life before saying, yes, I am aware I am tripping. I'm here in this hell that I don't want to live in. On the song, Jhené is very candid about her methods to escape her thoughts. And we are back for the third and final time to the front of Jhené Aiko's discography with Chilombo. Track 11, Trying to Smoke, is really the only song on Chilombo to touch on escapism, but that makes sense. This album involves a lot more clarity thematically than other albums, so it makes sense that she wouldn't feel the need to escape or just to talk about it in this album as much as the others. The chorus says, if I could fly, I would probably never come down. With all the bullshit confusion on the ground, I wish I was that high, 'cause I can't live my life when it's loud. Ben discusses the familiar Jhené theme of using marijuana as a safe escapism technique. And that's really where we're going to call it today. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave me a comment and let me know who you want to learn about next. And what is your favorite of the Jhené Aiko albums we talked about today? Please like and subscribe if you liked the video, and feel free to check out my other videos. And have a wonderful rest of your day.